If the 1962 chapter of aerospace history at Cape Canaveral can be given a title, a strong vote could be cast for Time of the Titan. In mid-January, the last Titan 1 was launched shortly after sundown. The 110-ton liquid-fueled two-stage ICBM wrapped up a highly successful test series in spectacular fashion.
The launch was successful and met all ballistic missile test objectives. Like the Atlas before it, the Titan II had potential as a manned space booster, and soon a man-rated version of the Titan II was developed for NASA's Gemini launch program. By 1964, the 6555th Titan Gemini launch team, headed by Lieutenant Colonel John G. Albert, was responsible for ensuring that each Gemini launch vehicle checked out properly prior to launch. Between March 1965 and the middle of September 1966, 9 manned Gemini flights were launched from the Air Force's Complex 19 at the Cape. A 10th mission was launched in November 1966. All were successful.
The technology and reliability of the obsolete Titan ICBM was not lost to progress. The key to the success of the spectacular achievements of the 2-man Gemini space flights, indeed the very heart of the program, was the modified two-stage Air Force Titan missile. It boosted a total of 20 Gemini astronauts into space in 10 milestone missions. Among the impressive accomplishments of the Titan Gemini program were the first American walk in space by astronaut Ed White, the first rendezvous of 2 orbiting Gemini spacecraft, and the docking of a Gemini spacecraft with an unmanned orbiting Agena spacecraft. Thus, the Titan II system survived the obsolescence of its original purpose and became a valuable launch vehicle for America's Man in Space program.
And GT-2, the unmanned Gemini spacecraft, still sat atop the modified Titan II booster on Complex 19 after a December fizzle. These missions were completed. GT-2 was successfully launched in January.
Aboard, developed maneuvering techniques needed for the Project Apollo moon journey.
And do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Without doubt, we're in Project Gemini, the second phase of America's manned spaceflight program. Gemini is a national effort, directed by the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, and supported by the Department of Defense in booster development, launch operations, tracking, recovery, bioastronautics, and providing flight crews. Television and radio networks spent several weeks re-establishing broadcast facilities at the Cape Press site for the first American manned spaceflight since the end of Project Mercury in 1963. Vice President Humphrey, chairman of the National Aeronautics and Space Council, flew in to observe this important first flight. Over 700 news media representatives from the U.S. and many foreign nations covered the event. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Gus Grissom, one of the original Mercury astronauts, and Navy Commander John Young, a newcomer, were America's first Gemini twins to fly. On March 23rd, the combined Air Force, NASA, industry blockhouse crew launched the Molly Brown spacecraft on its three-orbit flight.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
During the mission, the astronauts achieved a first by maneuvering their craft into a change of orbital plane, and then on re-entry, flew the Molly Brown to the selected landing area. The welcome home at the Cape and Cocoa Beach, Florida, was representative of the feeling of all America. GT-4, the second manned mission, followed close on the heels of GT-3. The flight date, June 3rd, was a month earlier than originally planned. Astronauts James McDivitt and Ed White were both new to space, but not new to flight. Both were crack Air Force test pilots. GT-3 was 3 orbits, 4 hours and 50 minutes. GT-4 was committed to 62 revolutions, 4 full days. 4 hours and 29 minutes into the mission, Ed White made American history.
What's your status for EVA? Status is go for EVA. Hi, Hawaii, Capcom. Go ahead. Roger, I understand our copy. He is outside of the spacecraft at this time.
The two space pilots received a boisterous welcome aboard the Navy's USS-1. GT-5, the first real Gemini endurance test, 8 days in space, was scheduled in August, and again well ahead of the originally planned date. The endurance champion of the Mercury flight, L. Gordon Cooper, was selected as command pilot. Former Navy flyer Pete Conrad was chosen as co-pilot. After a 2-day slip, the launch was rescheduled, and Cape support forces again took position. After a perfect launch in good orbit, problems developed in a new power supply system, and the mission seemed to be in trouble. NASA Flight Director Christopher Kraft decided to continue the mission, evaluating the situation on a day-to-day basis. Department of Defense support and recovery forces throughout the world maintained an around-the-clock vigil should a sudden mission halt be called.
This is NBC News. The flight of Gemini 5.
This is CKSN's coverage of Gemini at T plus 106 hours and 55 minutes.
Cooper and Conrad continuing to streak around the globe at 5 miles a second, now well past the midpoint of their 8-day Gemini 5 mission.
Astronauts L. Gordon Cooper and Charles Pete Conrad are piloting their Gemini 5 spacecraft into the 69th revolution around Earth, headed for the world's manned space-time record, 7.5 orbits away.
Go for the full amount of 8 days as was scheduled earlier.
Mission complete. Proof of our growing space-age experience in meeting with unexpected situations in flight. GT-6, the first rendezvous and docking mission, was scheduled for October. Astronauts Wally Schirra and Tom Stafford were already in their spacecraft when the Agena target vehicle atop an Atlas booster blasted from the old Mercury Complex 14. After approximately 6 minutes of flight, telemetry signals were lost. The Agena never achieved orbit. GT-6 was scrubbed. The big question now was the effect it would have on the program schedule. Disappointment was short-lived. President Johnson announced an exciting alternative. GT-7, a 14-day flight, was already on the board for a December launch. Confidence in the launch team was a well-established fact. These elements shaped a real challenge. Launch GT-7 with astronauts Jim Lovell and Frank Borman, and within 14 days, launch the delayed GT-6 astronauts from the same pad to effect a close-in orbital rendezvous. GT-7, the first leg of the ambitious double Gemini mission, was launched on December 4th on its marathon 332-hour flight. While Lovell and Borman were still in their first orbit 185 miles above, the launch crew moved the Titan booster to the complex and worked around the clock to prepare GT-6 for its date in space. The fast turnaround was an unprecedented feat, and on December 15th, after a frustrating delay, Schirra and Stafford roared away for their rendezvous with GT-7. 185 miles above the Pacific Ocean, Gemini 6 took a giant step forward for the United States as it maneuvered to within 1 foot of its sister spacecraft. An historic space-age first in the race to land men on the moon in this decade. 1965 was a year of achievement and fulfillment at Cape Kennedy, but the challenge ahead remains undiminished because man's move into space offers infinite promise.